I am 40F. My husband is 37M. Names have been changed. This is long. Buckle up. My husband and I have been very happily married for 10 years. Minor bumps along the way, but nothing we could not communicate about and work through. Until now. My best friend Cindy and her husband Mike are going through a nasty divorce, and it has caused a serious rift between my husband and I didn't realize how serious it was until this morning when he told me he was going to stay at his brother's house for the weekend. To understand the current situation, there is a bit of background I need to provide. 4 years ago, my hubby close friend Alan was caught having an affair on his wife. We all call her Carol. I was good friends with Carol. Not super close, but we get together for cocktails a few times a month and occasionally we go on double dates. My husband told me that Alan had been unhappy for a while because Carol had stopped having sex with him. When I talked to Carol, she didn't deny this. She said that Alan had gained weight and she was no longer attracted to him. This is somewhat true. He was around 6 feet tall and went from about 200 pounds to 250 pounds over the course of a year. Those are estimates. Alan was a chef and started sleeping with a female co-worker 15 years younger than him. He was 35, she was 20. The affair lasted for some time before they were caught at work. It all came out. He was fired and Carol left him. Cheating hits very close to home for me. My father had an affair on my mother when I was young and it ripped the family apart. Carol and Alan had 2 young children and the divorce hit them hard. I was there for her and the kids through it all. The divorce was ugly and costly. Suffice to say, it would take Alan years to financially recover. Throughout the whole ordeal, my husband still talked to Alan and would occasionally loan him money. The money is, and the issue is my husband and I both work and have our own accounts. The issue was that Alan had just cheated on his wife and ruined their family. I didn't want my husband remaining friends with him. Alan started drinking and going down a dark path. He was trying to drag my husband down with him. I told my husband if he continues his friendship with Alan, then we would have problems. After some back and forth, and me basically putting my foot down, he agreed to basically cut Alan out. We didn't need influences or people like that in our life. I should mention my husband says he didn't know about the affair, which I still question, but without proof he knew. I let it go. Alan was extremely upset when my husband told him they no longer be friends. They had grown up together, but I didn't want men like that in our life. Shortly after all this, we were reflecting on everything. My husband said something that I never forgot. He said, "One day one of your friends will do something they regret and need you. I hope you have the same wherewithal to cut them out if I ask you to." Cut to the present, and you guessed it, my bestie Cindy cheated on her husband Mike. Mike worked in manufacturing and was laid off in the midst of COVID. He eventually went back to work, but at a much lower wage according to her, and money was tight for them. Cindy picked up a job working as a barista, as she tells it. One of her regulars was a younger guy in real estate who has an eye for her and was constantly asking her to get together. He would slip her $100 tips a few times a week, she says. He knew she was married. Eventually Cindy gave in and started seeing this guy regularly on her days off while Mike was working. She told me she always felt guilty and knew it was wrong but could not stop herself. She said the sex was like she never experienced with Mike and she felt wanted and desired again. They were caught when their oldest daughter came home early from school because she was not feeling well. Cindy was busy with her AP, didn't see the text from her daughter, and the daughter walked in on them. The daughter told Mike. Mike was devastated and they are getting a divorce. The family has basically ostracized Cindy and want nothing to do with her currently. I and a few friends have been her support through everything. I need to say that I recognize what she did is terrible. However, my husband has pounced on this opportunity and is demanding I cut contact with her completely, just like I did with him 4 years ago. He says we don't need cheating cradle robbers in our lives. I explained that this is different and the issues between Mike and Cindy are more complicated and she feels genuine remorse and wants her family back. Also, what his friend did years ago was creepy. He says he does not care about the issues or how she feels and that he made a sacrifice for me years ago by cutting out one of his closest friends, and I need to do the same for him. I told him I was not going to do that and that he was being petty and vengeful and he knows the situations are completely different. This morning he said he heading to his brother's for the weekend. He said he feels betrayed. I honestly don't see how he feels this way. I don't know what to do. I asked him not to go. I told him I loved him and we can talk this out. He responded with "I'll see you Monday. I am at a loss." Update. I believe the situations were different because my friend is genuinely remorseful. She wants to reconcile. Alan did not. He acted as if he didn't care and showed little to remorse. He regretted what he did, but not because he betrayed his wife, but because of its effect on his children and his relationship with them. This really didn't sit well with me. Alan started partying with a younger crowd from his work, doing drugs not weed, drinking heavy and just overall regressing as an adult, and I didn't want him dragging my husband into it. It's really hard to accept that someone you consider your best friend could do something so vile. I tried to tune out the detail about her daughter catching them because it's so sad and heartbreaking. I've always thought she was such a good mother and model wife. I looked up to her even. What does that weigh about my judgment of character? Now that I've accepted what I have to do and I feel consumed with guilt, the thought of cutting Cindy out of my life hurts. We've been through a lot. Our families have vacationed together. I've confided in her and vice versa. It's scary to imagine just telling her sorry, but we're done. And knowing that's exactly what I made my husband do and realizing how he must have felt, it feels real shitty. He does not show a ton of emotion. He is very much a man's man. Had he told me he was feeling this way, I wouldn't have made him do it. I regret it a lot. The responses are overwhelming. It's only been hours and strangers are telling me I'm a horrible person and my husband should divorce me. I feel sick. I texted him a novel minutes ago telling him how sorry I was, that I feel guilty, I feel stupid, that I'm sorry about what I made him do years ago, and now I know how he felt. I told him I will cut Cindy out if that's what he really wants. I told him to reconnect with Alan. I asked him to come home and talk to me before heading to his brother's. I'm waiting for him to respond. He's too good to me. He'll probably forgive me, tell me I don't have to cut Cindy out, and it'll feel even worse. I'm not looking for sympathy. I just feel like absolute shit right now. Thanks for the slap of reality. Alan shouldn't have cheated with a 20-year-old instead of getting divorced, but at least he can argue that his wife didn't love him and left him in a dead bedroom. Cindy cheated on her husband, who was still committed to her and busting his ass. OP was being very obtuse about the situation. BC Cindy did not have the moral high ground here. That was the first story, and now we are going to listen today's second story. I 36F, and my BF 42M, have been together for 7 years. We have both been married and divorced before and like to be financially independent of each other and keep things pretty separate. What mine is mine and what his is his. I am CF, have worked my up in my field and am comfortable. My BF DOES and earn what I do. He pays a lot of child support to and contributes as he should to all of his 5 kids' after school activities. So our deal between us is, I pay all of our household bills / loans / food, and he looks after his kids and contributes what he can to our household. 5 years ago I brought a home for us, and I even went as far as buying a home that would suit his kids so they would feel comfortable when they came and stayed with us. This caused a lot of drama. His ex felt that I was trying to buy the children, and in her words, he only got the house to rub in how much better she thinks she is. I have always kept my distance from his ex. It was a messy divorce for them, which she blamed on me, even though I didn't met my partner until they've been separated for nearly a year. She has a history of DV to him and my presence makes it worse. 18 months ago I got a great job opportunity which would mean we would need to relocate 12 hours away from our current home. After discussions between BF and I and my BF and his ex, we agreed that we would make the move for my job, and would rent my house to his ex for an incredible discounted rate with the agreement that this would be for 2 years. I suggested therapy or counseling, but the ex won't hear it, making it sound like I calling her bad mother for suggesting it. The 2 years is ending and I want my house back. Basically the ex is saying if I rich enough to pay for a rental and pay a mortgage now, I should let her and the kids stay in the house, and since the kids now hate me, it would be a waste of space for just my BF and I. And this situation is also leading to kids telling my partner that they hate me even more for kicking them and their mother out of their home. My BF is very torn. He just wants his kids safe and happy. I had some messages for an update on my original post, so if you interested in the backstory, check out my profile. But ultimately, IWAS and the AH I was the moron. After reading a lot of comments on my original post, I decided that while yes I wanted my house back, I also didn't really love the idea of living in the house the nasty women had lived in for longer than I. It didn't feel like my home anymore and I really wanted my home to feel like my home. So I decided to sell. I spoke with my BF and he was really non-committal on the situation but said it was my decision. I gave the ex the option to stay in the home and I would sell it as an investment property with a tenant or she could move out. She went with going absolutely batshit crazy and decided to out hers and my BF reignited emotional love affair. As it turns out, since my BF and I have returned to our hometown, and I still have to leave town frequently for work, they had gotten close again. The ex sent me a arseload of screenshots of steamy messages / pictures and long-winded messages winging about me and that maybe I would just let them have the house if my BF and I separated. Since I would need all that space. I obviously confronted my BF and he looked incredibly panicked but admitted to all and said that it was more of an emotional relationship and it had not turned physical. And he was very sorry and embarrassed and was only leaning on her for comfort because I was away a lot. He also missed his kids and he felt emasculated by me a lot of time. There are plenty of other reasons and excuses not even worth mentioning. Needless to say, I am now single, have kicked him and her out, and placed the house on the market for sale and have just put an offer on a cute little townhouse on the beach. I downloaded Tinder tonight after a few wines and thought it was a good time to let Reddit know that most of you were right on my original post. Life is and great but I sure it'll be again one day. That was the second story and now we are going to listen today's third story. It took me a while to muster up the courage to post this. It might even be deleted because admins will think it a troll. And even blame them if they did. I can believe the utter absurdity that is currently my life. I'll cut right to the chase. My wife of 3 years just tearfully confessed to me that she has sex with her nephew. This happened 7 years ago and she said she's sick with regret every day since. This was her blood nephew, her sister's son. She was adamant that he came onto her and shock of it made her unable to resist. However, it went on for 6 months. She swears that he initiated it 100% of the time and she was just too depressed to push him away. At this time, he was 19 years old and she was 34. When this happened, she had moved in with her sister because her ex-husband cheated with her 18-year-old daughter, no relation, so she was feeling incredibly low. I knew about that, but not at all about what followed. She swears that if she was in such a dark depressed state, it would never happened. I could see in her eyes that she meant that. Now, my wife is the sweetest, warmest, most genuine person I ever met. Everyone adores her. She loves me to the moon and back and I love her too. I just in a state of shock now. She said she had to tell me because she loves me so much and I deserve to know who she really is. I told her that I needed a bit of time to process things. I can understand that she was in a very dark place. I can understand that she didn't initiate it. But for her first response to not be pushing him away, her full sister child, for half a year, I can view her the same way and it killing me. I don't even know what I'm asking for. She's staying with a friend right now while I process things. She opened up to me about something she'd been keeping in for years. Can I really throw her away due to something that had nothing to do with me? Can I ever not see her as someone who participated in incest? I need help. Edit. I'm going to talk to her tonight to get the full story, see if there anything else she done that I prefer to know about now than later. I need to do this if I want to even entertain the idea of getting counseling and keeping things going. Yeah, divorce is the only option here. I went to the hotel she's staying at wanting full transparency and other huge secrets I may want to know about to see if I could stay. She was adamant that there were no more secrets, but the full story she gave me will never leave my mind. She was possibly attracted to him before he came onto her, claiming that he looked exactly like his father, her sister ex who she used to be in love with. While she maintains that she never initiated it, she definitely enjoyed it. He was a virgin and she enjoyed showing him the ropes. Her sister caught them 3 months and cut her off. They continued for 3 more months before the guilt finally got her. They never used protection of any kind. She did everything with him. I do mean everything. I feel slight guilt for having her open up about all of this and then leaving her, but yeah, I know she had a traumatic upbringing, lots of trauma in her life, but this was and done in some dissociative haze. She was an active participant. I thanked her for being so forthcoming with me. Left. If I didn't ask for the full story, I might have tried to work things out, but now I definitely can. Curiosity killed the cat. Thank you all for your support and superb advice. I am upset that my marriage is ending, but I can live a lie. Thanks for listening everyone. If you enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Red Relationships to never miss a future upload.